Warrior, and I'm going to be your host for today. We have a lot of wonderful information we want to provide you, so I'm going to start right here and tell you that the Animal Coalition of Tampa, also known as ACT, is a low-cost spay-neuter clinic right here in our own backyard, right here in Hillsborough County. Now, ACT is a nonprofit organization, and their primary focus is high-volume spay-neuter programs that are used to help reduce the huge, and I do mean huge, number of dogs and cats, companion animals that are currently filling up our animal shelters. And in turn, that helps reduce the number of dogs and cats that are killed every year, again in Hillsborough County and throughout the state of Florida, but specifically in Hillsborough County because there aren't enough homes for them. Now, ACT has a lot of wonderful, neat programs, and these are programs that help our dogs and cats live longer lives, and in addition to living longer lives, these programs also help our dogs and cats live happier and healthier lives, which is wonderful as well. Now, ACT's focus is on our companion animals, our dogs and cats here in Hillsborough County, in our community. And they do that through spay-neuter programs, they do that through vaccinations, they also do that through transportation programs to and from the clinic, and they do that in addition to being a great source of education for all things relating to being fixed. And when I say fixed, again, I refer back to spay and neuter and the importance of spay and neuter, and we're going to talk about that throughout today's program. Now, without further ado, we are here at the ACT, the Animal Coalition of Tampa Clinic. The address here is 1719 West Lemon Street, and the website is www.actampa.org. Telephone numbers area code 813-250-3900. And we have with us here today the wonderful Linda Hamilton, who is the Executive Director of Animal Coalition of Tampa. Linda, thanks so much for having us here today.
Thank you, John.
And I'm sure all of our viewers are very interested in finding out everything that you have to say and about this wonderful organization. So I guess, can you tell us a little bit more, elaborate on all the wonderful things that you do for dogs and cats, our companion animals here in Hillsborough County?
I think you did a really good start. Our focus is on spaying and neutering. Several years ago, what came to our recognition is that there are thousands and thousands of dogs and cats that go into our county shelters every year, and most of them just don't come back out. After we did our research, we found that there's no amount of there's no amount of adoptions that's really going to solve that problem. In fact, a very interesting statistic is that in order to get to a zero kill rate, every single person in the community would need to adopt 7 animals, dogs and cats, for every birth and every human being, and it's just not going to happen. Yeah. The only way that we can solve this overpopulation crisis is to stop taking animals to the shelter. But if we continue to allow our dogs and cats to have babies, litters and litters, there's no other choice. So we're here to provide low-cost and accessible spaying and neutering to people in our community so that we can stop the overpopulation crisis in Hillsborough County.
Okay, yeah, and now can you tell me a little bit more about the personal story that you have as far as how you started or why you started ACT, Animal Coalition of Tampa?
Animal Coalition started in 2001 as a response to a kitty that showed up on my doorstep. When I was a kid, I really didn't have any animals, and I didn't really find out that I had an affinity toward dogs and cats until after I left. Basically fell in love with the cat species. The cats I find a lot of beauty in. And I did what my doctors told me to do. I would spay and neuter without a real appreciation of exactly why I was doing that. But one day I had a cat show up at my front door, and I wondered where his home was. I mean, every cat in my mind had to have a home, but he kept coming to my front door over and over, day after day, until I realized that I was as close a home as he had, but he wouldn't allow me to, he wouldn't come to me. He wouldn't allow me to touch him. I knew I needed to be doing something more than just feeding him. I knew he needed attention, but he wouldn't allow me to touch him. So I started doing research. I started making phone calls. I started trying to figure out, what do I do about Blackie? And I couldn't find the answers. So that's when I started a national research and found out that Blackie was, in fact, my first feral cat, that there were approximately 200,000 of them in the area. and that there was really no current way of low-cost spay-neuter to trap, neuter, and return these guys back out to solve the feral cat population problem. And that was the inception of Animal Coalition. We formed in 2001 as a monthly response. We borrowed clinics, and we brought together a lot of volunteer veterinarians, and we started on our mission of spaying and neutering. We started off with the feral free roaming cats, and it wasn't until March of this year that our strategic plan took us to the next level, which was opening our doors to both ferals and pet cats, and also including dogs.
And you bring up a great topic. I mean, as far as, can you explain to our audience the difference, those people that don't know, the difference between what a feral cat is and what a stray cat is? Because there is a big difference, and there's some confusion as far as the exact definition. I believe feral cats,
feral cats are stray. Stray cats are not necessarily feral. Feral cats are cats that have reverted back to their wild nature because they've been born in the wild and they haven't been touched by human hands. And once that cat is full grown, there are very, very slim chances of ever making that cat adoptable again. But when people walk away from their animals, when they abandon them, when they let them roam intact, they cause a feral cat to happen. We're the ones that cause this problem, and we're the ones that have to fix it. We're responsible for feral cats being out there, and we need to fix the problem.
And again, they haven't asked for the fact that they're out there. They just are.
Right.
So the Trap, Neuter, and Release program is a humane way to spay and neuter these cats and then release them into, into their environment. Well, can you explain to our viewers, too, why it is so important to spay and neuter our dogs and cats? And it's not just to help reduce the pet population, which is a huge problem in Hillsborough County, in the state of Florida, and throughout the country, but there are other benefits as well as reducing the pet population problem.
And my focus has always been on the community benefits, stopping the pet overpopulation with high-volume spay and neuter. And it wasn't really until I got into this that I realized that that's just one of the reasons to spay and neuter. There are a couple of other major reasons, and one of them is that it's a lot better for the animal. I mean, it totally eliminates certain types of cancer, and it way cuts down on other types of cancer. A spayed and neutered animal just lives a longer and healthier life, and we do have brochures available here at the clinic for anyone that's interested in why it's better for your animal. It's better for the animal itself. It's better for the pet owner or the guardian. Anyone that's gone through heat with a kitty or heat with a dog, or a male dog that wants to rush out the front door or greet your company when they come in the front door, knows that their life is a lot better once their animal has been spayed or neutered. And then, of course, the third tier, the third reason, is the community. To keep our shelters from having to use euthanasia as a population control.
And can you tell me how ACT is helping low-income families afford, having their dog or cat spayed or neutered?
A couple of ways. 3 ways that come to mind. Number one is that our prices are already set at a discount rate. We're a 501c3. We barely, if we cover our bills, then we feel like that we're successful. We've got them set about as low as we can, and we do a lot of fundraising to cover them. So one is that we already have low rates. The other two, one of them is that we accept from the county their voucher program.
Right.
The county has an excellent program that gives a spay, neuter, rabies shot and rabies certification to anyone that's on public assistance or qualifies with a low income for public assistance. Bring the voucher to us, and we will spay or neuter your animal, give them pain medicine, anesthesia, and board them for the night for the low-cost $10 that the county has established. We also, our third level right now is that we found that there's a lot of people that don't make minimum. They make more than minimum wage, but housing costs are so high. And what we find out is that after they've paid all of their bills and their rent or their mortgage and put food on the table and paid insurance, they just don't have the money left over. So through the Florida Animal Friend, the specialty license plate, we got a grant, and we're offering half-price dog spays and half-price cat spays and neuters. Dog spays and neuters, cat spays and neuters. So give us a call at our clinic, and we can tell you more about that. We've got the low price, we've got the honoring of the voucher from the county, and currently, while the funds last, we've got what we call the Big Fix, which is the Animal Friends grant.
And as you pointed out already, the services you provide, do help out low-income families because it is so important to spay and neuter these dogs and cats. You want to make it available to everybody in the community. So although it is, for low-income families to take advantage of, anybody in the community could take advantage of the wonderful services you provide here at the Animal Coalition of Tampa.
Absolutely. Like we just discussed, there are a lot of people that might make what other people think is a whole lot of money. But it's only a lot of money if they have a lot of money left over. So we don't limit and we don't qualify. People know what they can afford, and our primary focus is to get them to do the right thing. So to get them to do the right thing, we will entice them and offer them, and we don't check backgrounds. We just try to make it as easy and accessible and affordable as possible.
And of course, in addition to as we had already talked about, in addition to spaying and neutering, because of course that's a very main focus of the Animal Coalition of Tampa, because it is so important in ACT's mission. And I want you to elaborate a little bit more on ACT's mission. But what are the other services? Could you elaborate on some of the other services? There's microchipping and...
Yes. When we first formed Animal Coalition Spay-Neuter Clinic back in March, we were pretty much committed and focused to just simply do spaying and neutering, and that's all we were going to do. We knew that was the answer, and that we were going to make other people understand that was the answer. But we started listening to people. People told us what they needed, and they told us over and over again that they needed an option for low-cost vaccinations to the animals that they had already spayed and neutered. So we listened, and we opened up the low-cost vaccination and microchips clinics every other Friday, and they're pretty well filled. We have a doctor that comes in on Friday, and she gives a physical exam, checks all of the vitals, and determines that the dog or cat is worthy to go through the vaccinations. We help advise what is the appropriate vaccination. We don't like to overdo vaccinations, but there are some that are core, some that are not necessary, and we help people understand which, in not our opinion, but rather our sources, belong in what category. And microchipping is so extremely important. If you have the opportunity to do it and you don't do it and lose your animal, it can be devastating. It can really throw you into a tizzy and guilt because you did have that opportunity. So it's a very inexpensive insurance policy to get your animal back home.
And can you explain a little bit more, for those people that aren't too familiar with microchips, the process and the fact that it isn't painful to the dog or cat, but it is so important because a tag could be lost.
Right. We like to do the microchips when the dog is is having surgery. We will always try to educate our people and ask us at that point in time, because the needle has to be big enough to contain the little grain of rice that holds the information. However, having said that, I think it's probably more painful for us than it is for them. I had a kitty that was only a couple of pounds when he was neutered, so and I got him from a rescue group, so he wasn't old enough, and so I put it off because I didn't want to put him through it. And so I hid my eyes, and the doctor said, "You want me to tell you when it's over?" And I said, "Yes." and I'm waiting for this big squeal, and she said, it's over. So it's I went through all of this anxiety. It's a little tiny grain of rice-sized microchip, and it holds a number, and that number has the owner or the guardian's name established to it at the database that the microchip manufacturer has. It's not like some big brother thing. It's not like a GPS system, but rather it's a way that if that collar gets lost, or if your animal gets away or out the door, because it is an indoor animal, so you don't need any kind of identification, then somebody's going to be able to trace them back to you. And it gives you a lot of peace of mind, and it helps to, like I say, bring home your animal that you love.
And it is so important because, yeah, if there's like a hurricane or something, inadvertently they get out because, you know, the dogs and cats are inside the house, but if they happen to get out, and again, an important thing that people need to know is if they do lose their companion animal, and of course it is a frantic time, I mean, you're beside yourself, but one of the things to do is call your vet, call the Humane Society of Tampa Bay, call Hillsborough County Animal Services, because a lot of times that's where those animals are turned into, more than likely animal services, and they can, basically it's like a wand, they run it over the animal's neck, the dog or cat's neck, where the microchip usually is, and that'll read the number and the information. So it's really just so important, and it's, like you said, it's painless, and you provide that, you know, through the Animal Coalition in Tampa as well.
And we do it for a very reasonable price.
Now, also, I've seen a unique vehicle outside a number of times. It's called the neuter scooter.
The neuter scooter.
Yeah. Can you explain to our viewers what that's all about and how important that is?
Yes. We did our research to determine why it was, in fact, that people didn't spay or neuter their animals. And we determined that there were really 3 basic reasons. Number 1 was pricing. It just can be a bit too costly for a family whose focus is on getting food on their kids' tables and getting insurance and getting their books paid for when school starts. And so we started with the low cost. But the other 2 reasons are tied in pretty much together. One is accessibility. The lady that has kids and she's in a single family and has a cat and has to be at her hourly paid job can't get blocks and miles away to bring her animal in, and can't even take the time to do it because it cuts into the time at work. And the other is the people that just, it just isn't something they prioritize. They just never really got around to it. And they might have a car, but they've just never really taken the time off and focused. So it's not accessibility as much as it is a priority. What we've done is we've gotten through grants a transportation system, and the transportation system will meet anyone that needs to have their animal sent in here that has an appointment, and we'll bring them on in. We spay and neuter them, whatever other services that they're asking for, and then we take the animals back to meet the guardian or the owner at that location late in that afternoon. And that's a no-cost feature.
And that's something that, again, for people to take advantage of that, they need to call the number again, area code 813-250-3900. And as we talked about before, and it should be at the bottom of the screen throughout the program, is your website and how important that is. Again, that's www.actampa.org. And you can email you with any additional questions, because we've got some more questions through the rest of the program. But if there's something that isn't asked or answered on the program, if there's something else that you as our community, as our audience would like to know, just, the best thing to do would be to go to the website, www.actampa, only 1 T there, .org, and there's an email section. And again, a lot of your questions might be answered on the website as well.
Yes, and there is a schedule on that website of where the neuter scooter will be. Same pickup points. It's not a taxi service. It doesn't come to the house, but it does go to blocks from the home. And if there are places where that doesn't work, then call us anyway, because we have volunteers that may come out and provide transportation system or service for a particular person that day.
Because everybody here, you, I know Frank, and everybody else here at the at Animal Coalition Tampa, I mean, you have these animals' best interests at heart.
Right.
So you're going to do everything you can to to make sure that the right thing is done. Get these animals spayed or neutered, because it is so sad when you hear the large numbers, like 30-some thousand dogs and cats that were euthanized or killed last year because there weren't enough homes for them.
Right.
And part of that, again, is, you know, adopting from animal shelters, from the Humane Society of Tampa Bay, from Hillsborough County Animal Services, through the rescue groups that get a lot of these animals through animal services. Don't go to a pet store. Don't go to a breeder where these animals are being mass produced, because, again, they're making a profit from, you know, a situation, as we had pointed out, all these animals are being put down in the shelters because they don't have a home. So why would you want to increase that number by, you know, supporting a breeder or a pet store?
Right, and 30% of all the animals that go into animal services, our local shelter, are breed animals, pets and dogs. So go there and check it out. The important thing is that if you do adopt your animal from one of the local rescue groups, or Humane Society, which is the other shelter, or Animal Services, they will be spayed and neutered. But the facts are that most of the people get their animals from their neighbor's litter. So that's where we come back into you and say, please, if you do that, don't repeat the pattern. Come and bring them here and call us, and let's get these guys spayed and neutered so that your baby doesn't also have a litter that you got to find homes for, because every time you find a home for them, another one dies.
Right. Well, and stepping back to the neuter scooter, you had mentioned that there are a certain set number of locations. What are the location drop-off and pickup points?
Every Petco that we have in the area, because of course Petco is the one that gave us the grant money. So the one in Brandon, the one at Regency in Brandon, the one at Carrollwood on North Del Mabry, the Petco at West Shore, and the Petco at New Tampa. We're starting to work into the Pasco County area up there. So we'll bring once a month. We also go down to Sun City. We've got a place down there that we call the Three-Legged Poodle. It's a boutique shop, and she is very much into the cause and helps us tremendously. Riverview, we've got a pickup point that fills up every month at Riverview. We go to these locations at the same day of the month, second Tuesday, third Thursday, whatever. And we've just picked up a place in the Plant City area as well.
Okay, and again, check out the website, www.actampa.org, and those locations for the neuter scooter would be on there as well. Now, I know you alluded to it a little bit earlier about the grant money and some of the money from the voucher program through Hillsborough County Animal Services, but as a nonprofit, how are you able to help so many wonderful dogs and cats, companion animals throughout Hillsborough County?
I have been very moved by all the support that we've received once we determined that this is what we needed to do and it's what the community needed. We've gotten national response from PetSmart and Petco, and we've gotten some local response. There is a local gentleman who prefers to remain anonymous, but loved a cat very much, and this cat's name was Lotto, and took care of a lot of stray and feral cats on the outside and at his place of business, and he lost Lotto. Some pit bulls made it in through his gated area, and Lotto didn't make it through, and he was very upset by that. He came to us at a No More Homeless Pets Adopt-a-thon, which we were using to spread the word and pass the information about spay and neuter, and ask us if we knew of any place that, or any project that he could be a part of financially, and because he wanted to honor Lotto. And that was kind of the beginning of the whole thing. That happened the night after our strategic planning meeting, in which we determined that we needed to do this, but had no idea how we were going to pull it off. Now we're at the point where we need public support to continue, because we're going to add our second veterinarian here. We need to get our numbers up. We've had some good news this year. The numbers are starting to come down there, a few thousand less this year than they were last year. We almost hesitate to even say that, because we don't want to, we need to knock on wood here that it continues. But we feel sure that it will, because we're doing what's proven, and that is we're doing high volume spay neuter. We just need to get to the targeted people that would not otherwise do it. We need support in doing that, because these targeted people don't necessarily have the money, even the low cost money. So we do it with support from the public. We do it with our fundraisers. We do it with our annual Strive for Strays. We do it with we have a new one coming up, the Crew Poo of Paradise has adopted us as their rescue or a nonprofit agency that they will be and have been, in fact, contributing to. And they're going to have a ball called the Oscars Act 1, and it will be held in April of this year. So it will be a very fun event. Everyone will dress up as their favorite actor or actress. And we do it through the $25 that come in from the person that's pushing it to give us that kind of a donation. So again, we're nonprofit and we're tax exempt.
That's great. And actually through the donations and things of that sort, you can, in addition to your low-cost spay neuter and the other wonderful programs that you offer here, you could even provide more types of promotions. And you could go to the website and check that information out, because I know you've got a promotion coming up in February that people could go to, and every month you do something similar to that. So please check out the website to get that information. Again, every month it changes. So again, www.actampa.org. I know you also, as we talked about earlier, you work with the rescue groups in the area. The rescue groups, and they need their dogs and cats spayed or neutered, because again, a lot of them do this on a volunteer basis, and you help them out and you network that way. So if someone's looking for, you know, a dog or cat, I mean, you can refer them to that. In addition to like petfinder.com, I mean, you know these different organizations, you know who to contact. Could you tell me what that's like and you know, the interaction there? Critical.
When I first got involved with animal welfare, it was through rescue group, because my phone calls didn't get me any help with ferals, but it did get me a few phone calls asking me if I'd like to volunteer. And when I volunteered, it had to do with adoption. So I got to see that part, and I got to be a part of that, and that's where I met a lot of people. As I did my research, however, we branched off and started focusing in the spay and neuter, but we understand that there are 3 ways that this problem is going to be solved. There's going to be solved by spaying and neutering, by education, and we've also got to increase our adoptions. So our piece of this whole puzzle is to try to glue everybody together, therefore coalition, and the No More Homeless Pets that we co-founded. When we started this, we had a lot of requests from the rescue groups. We needed to be available to them. A rescue group needs to be able to have a spay or neuter happen quickly, because once they get this animal, they need to have them spayed or neutered so that they can get them adopted as soon as possible while they're still cute little babies. So we do value the participation of our rescue groups, and we do make it a little bit easier for them. We started first with our monthly, by working with a couple of groups to pull out the animals out of the feral cat colonies, the little kittens, and get them adopted through the other group, the cat groups.
And we're just about out of time, Linda. I know there's a lot of great information, you know, you can provide our viewers. So again, check out the website, www.actampa.org. Again, the address here is 1719 West Lemon Street in Tampa. Telephone number 813-250-3900. But the best thing to do is go to the website and go to email, respond that way. Linda, thank you so much for
Thank you.
There's been a wealth of information for our viewers. Thank you for everything you do, and everybody you do here, everything that everybody does here at Animal Coalition of Tampa. And thank you all for everything you do to help the animals.
And I just would like to invite everyone to visit our actampa.org website, and please give us a call if you have any other questions, if you need advice on how to take care of your animal, if you have any questions about who's available to offer different services. 250-3900, 813-250-3900. Thanks.
Well, thank you.